Oh, right. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Good evening to members of the public who are listening in. And before we start, may I wish you all a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and I hope we all come back feeling invigorated and full of the joys of spring to come. I'd like now to ask that these two splendid young men, Nathan and Tyler beside me, are going to give a little talk about the North Norfolk Youth Council Steering Group, and Emma's going to introduce that.
Yes, so I just wanted to introduce Tyler here and Nathan here, who are from our steering group of 5 young men, people who are working hard to set up the Youth Council. They've just come to talk to you about what they've done so far over the summer. They've been got a website and a video that we're going to share with you. And just to say, we've also got some posters because we've got a launch date on the 29th of January. So if any of you are able to take away some posters and put them up or share them, that would be great as well. Started the social media campaign today. So yeah, and we've got a couple of interviews lined up over the next couple of days with the media for them. So I'm not going to speak anymore. I'm going to hand over and let them introduce themselves. Thank you.
I'll begin by thanking you guys for letting us come today. I think we really appreciate that. I'm not just speaking on behalf of myself. I think everyone, a young person across North Norfolk, would echo that. My name's Tyler, this is Nathan. The other 5 members of the other 3 members of the youth group are Millie, Aaron and Summer. You should meet them eventually in the future. What we want to get from today is kind of to explain to you guys what we're going to be doing around North Norfolk, what we want the Youth Council to be, how we can work with you guys, how you guys can work with us, how we can help you guys, how you guys can help us. We're going to elaborate a little bit on what Emma said about our event on the 29th of January. And then we kind of just want to highlight everything that we want to happen in North Norfolk and how we're going to get it done.
I'd like to echo what Tyler did say. Thank you all for listening. I'd like to start off with our vision. The first 3 things we'd like to focus on are the education, environment, and mental health awareness. We'd like to highlight what students are being taught and the lack of life skills which are available in schools. And for the environment, we are young people who are conscious about this. We want to inherit a community which is sustainable and conscious of the future environmental struggles. North Norfolk is very important to the UK, and we need to protect our coastline and environment in general, and we need to act now.
What we've done so far is we have set up our steering group of 5 members. We have created a lovely logo, which we were quite proud of. The design team helped us, and a couple of members from the steering group helped design that too. It obviously is the coast of North Norfolk, which is something we can all be very, very proud of. I think Cromer won the Best Beach Award in the vote. I am from Cromer, so I'm going to be a little bit biased towards that. We also have a web page which hopefully we'll be able to show off today, but first of all we want to show you our beautiful video that Felix and the comms team helped us.
We are a part of the North Norfolk Youth Council. We have formed this youth council to help with a number of problems for young people, and we need your help to do it.
As a youth council, our main objectives are going to be improving the education, the mental health services, and environmental issues around North Norfolk. We believe these are very crucial issues to our age group, as they affect us now and will affect generations in the future.
If you are aged between 11 to 18 and are passionate about the causes we are aiming to address, then we would love to hear from you.
If you want to join us and help out with these crucial issues, head over to our website and join the North Norfolk Youth Council today.
As it did say on there, our launch event will be taking place on the Sunday, the 29th of January, and it will be open to anyone aged 11 to 18 in North Norfolk who wants to make a difference and have their voices heard. On the day, we are hoping to have a range of activities, including a panel of councillors to answer Q&As and have the ability to find out more about our vision and the areas we want to influence change. Also, we do have a British Youth Council representative who will be available to answer any questions, and we are looking for more young people to join the Youth Council, as it would love to have a bigger base so we can have a larger area where we can tackle more issues.
I'd also like to add that at the bottom of that PowerPoint, it says there will be cake. And if you guys say no to cake, then where do we even start? Lastly, I want to talk about what we need from you guys. We want you to get the word out. Emma has brought along some of our posters that we need you guys to really be posting all over your areas and all over North Norfolk for us. We want you to stay connected and to listen to what the Youth Council has to say and what young people across North Norfolk has to say. We want this to be a two-way street. We know we can't work without you guys, and hopefully you guys won't do anything that will affect young people without kind of asking us for some advice or asking us for some help. That is what we're here to do. We don't want you guys to be making decisions that you feel will affect our age group, and maybe you're a little bit unsure, maybe you want to get our opinion before going ahead with something. We are here to help. We don't want to be a burden. I don't want to feel like we're here to chase you around or to do your job for you. We're just here to offer some advice and to give our opinion across. I'm very excited to say that I will be talking to the BBC tomorrow morning. So we will be getting our kind of go ahead for getting publicity across. I think that's really helpful, but we really need you guys to work with us, and we'll work with you to the best of our ability. And we can really start seeing North Norfolk become an area where young people feel welcome, feel like they can achieve, and feel like they can actually get a go ahead from what is an amazing area. I think we can all agree that we're very, very lucky to live in North Norfolk.
I'd like to thank you all for listening, and I did hope that you all found this very informative. I would really urge you all to check out the website and watch the video again if you would like some more information. Like I did say before, the launch event is Sunday the 29th of January, and it would be great if we could have some councillors to join the panel. And I would like to just say thank you on behalf of all young people in North Norfolk for everything that you are doing and creating this youth council so that we could have a large platform where we can talk about the issues to you directly.
Thank you very much. Very informative. We wish you all the luck, and possibly a little bit later we can have you back in again, see what you've been up to. Yes. Right. Thank you. If you'd like to stay, you're very welcome. If you would like to slip out now, you're very welcome too. Thank you once again. Thank you. Isn't it nice to see our young people? Well done, well done. Right, so that was item number 1 on the agenda. We now go, once we're a bit settled, are we settled now? To apologies for absence. There have been several apologies today because of deaths in families, so we just have to say our thoughts are with the various families involved.
I've received apologies from Councillor P. Buttercover, S. Buttercover, N. Dixon, G. Hayman, G. Perry Warnes, J. Punchard, P. Withington and P. Bevan-Jones.
Thank you. If I now ask you to confirm the minutes of the meeting of the council held on the 16th of November 2022. Can you confirm that these are true And you approve? Yes, no need to take a vote for this, I don't think. Do we just, if you just confirm, thank you. Items of urgent business. I don't think there are any. Declarations of interest from members. Lucy, councillor Shire.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just in relation to item 11, it's non-pecuniary, but I am a county council for North Walsham East, and also the county council being paid consultation fees. It's a highways project, so I think it's best to be transparent there.
Okay, anybody else got anything to declare here? Nope. Right, we go on. My communications. Not quite so many this last month, I have to say. It says welcome. Look at that. Right, off we go. Charity quiz night. I held a quiz night in Stalham, and we had it in the Poppy Centre, and I must say it's lovely and new, etc. But it didn't have real atmosphere. So the old town hall, I don't know, I've got a real soft spot for that. But we managed to raise £226, which I think is quite impressive. So, and thank you to all who attended and who assisted on the evening. And thank you to Kay for helping me with that, because I can't do without her. She's an absolute star. Then the next one was the Cromer Parish Church. That was lovely, Tim, wasn't it? Unfortunately, I didn't have a Christmas jumper, but everybody else seemed to be. But never mind. And even Duncan Baker didn't. He said he was sorry, but he didn't get the message about the Christmas jumper. But that was lovely. Then I went to the Christmas carol service at my local church. That was very nice too. I'm Christmas out, really, caroled out, to be honest with you, but you can never be caroled out, can you? You can always get lots more in. Then festive fundraising. Look how much we raised. This was staff, basically. Some members, I think, district councillors did contribute, but this was the bake and the raffle. I had some chocolate truffles. Now, I had promised myself I wouldn't eat them straight away. But, you know, when you sit in the evening with a wee dram, they just winked at me. I had to finish them. So thanks to all staff who helped during the week. And again, a big thank you to the Democratic Services and to Steve Hems and to Linda and to Kay and other members of staff who've been tremendous. And we had carols in the foyer this afternoon, which was lovely. Good attendance. And Steve was in charge of the service. And I don't know what we're saying, the music. I was hoping for the Sally Army, but we had Steve Hems instead. But that's not bad, is it? I mean, let's be honest. And then there was a little libation for the staff afterwards with the mince pie. I think Emma said she's mince pied out this week. Lots and lots of mince pie. So thank you all very much indeed. And as I've said, I'll just repeat, there is a Christmas pudding down here that needs filling up with little coins and things like this for the charities. That's all I need to say today. We are now go over to Tim for his leaders' announcements. Now, I was just telling you we are going to be very strict with time tonight, so that we don't impinge too much on the festivities afterwards.
Okay, I will speak as fast as I can, but I do have a bit to cover. I want to begin by addressing the issues residents have faced with bin collections across North Norfolk. Over the last week, we have continued to see domestic missed bin collections below 200, despite the challenges with the weather. There was some narrative around frozen bin lids, which isn't quite true, but frozen garden waste, frozen tail lifts, and overriding concerns about health and safety have been a factor which has led to some additional delays, but I'm pleased to say they've caught up with those. I have made direct representations to Serco this week in connection with 19 properties who have continued to see repeated misses, and I will continue to do this until such time that those issues are not present. Clearly, the situation is moving in the right direction. However, our expectations for all of those impacted that they would be delivering was that they would be delivering a greater level of collections at this stage, and we wouldn't be seeing the issues that we have. Therefore, Serco have issued the following apology, which I will now read. We would like to apologise to residents who have not had their bins collected on the scheduled day during the ongoing implementation of a significant service change, which is designed to improve efficiency and help reduce our carbon footprint. Due mainly to national shortages, we continue to experience difficulties in filling temporary roles, and this has impacted on our ability to complete some rounds and return for some missed collections in a timely manner. Our thanks go to the dedicated and hard-working collection crews and depot staff who collect approximately 70,000 bins per week across refuse, recycling, garden waste and trade collection services. Whilst we are successfully completing the vast majority of collections on time and the number of reported misses has significantly reduced, we remain committed to continuing to improve this and have put in place further measures to address repeated misses alongside providing additional support to crews to ensure any missed collections are recovered as quickly as possible. We understand the importance of the waste and recycling service. It impacts not only on the residents, but also the perceptions of the area. We very much appreciate the commitment of residents reporting missed collections, which helps us pinpoint problem areas and enables us to target improvements accordingly. We have thanked Serco for this statement, and I thank staff of this council who have continued to work hard to address the issues. During the last period between this meeting and the last, we have of course become aware of closures of HSBC branches in Fakenham and Cromer, which led to my meeting with HSBC and discussions with the operators of the emerging bank hub model, which is only open in 4 places in the country. I have been invited to visit the nearest branch and will do so in the new year. Whilst I have concerns about the closure of both branches and the surprisingly low numbers, around 40%, as I understand, in both branches accessing online and telephone banking, we have to accept that this is the course of direction for high street banking, and we must embrace a new model which could deliver banking products in our high streets in the future. I'm currently looking at the strengths and possibilities of Holt, Stalham and Wells hosting such facilities, given the absence of bank branches in those towns. We have sadly become aware of businesses in our high streets going into administration. It was very welcome news, of course, that Jules found a buyer, given the outlets in Wells and Holt. But we are aware, of course, of some businesses struggling and considering ceasing trade. And we certainly hope that M&Co will find a buyer and that they can continue to contribute to our town centres in Fakenham and Cromer. Inflation continues to impact on every aspect of our lives. The autumn statement, unfortunately, has not provided the level of assistance needed to local authorities to maintain the level of services provided. And I don't doubt that we will see some authorities very much struggling with the pressure of squeezed finances. There has been a predicted £340 million worth of lost value in the Levelling Up Fund, according to the most recent local government chronicle, and this spells out the challenges for local authorities in delivering capital projects at this time. Residents continue to need assistance, and I'm pleased to announce that we have agreed to help fund Norfolk Community Law Service with the provision of £10,000. Norfolk Community Law Service provide helps to residents across the district and the county indeed, particularly with the provision of free legal advice, but also in circumstances where debts and benefits advice and advocacy is needed. Everyone is also rightly concerned about the loss of 3 blue flags at Munsley, Seapawling and East Runton beaches. We are to urgently meet with the Environment Agency and Anglian Water in the new year. However, I am concerned that people are right to draw some of the conclusions that they have about sewage having been the factor. It is certainly not as a result of anything the district council has done. We have maintained our RNR lifeguards and other things that contribute towards the blue flags. And we will continue, we will be doing everything we can to win back those blue flags. Finally, I wanted to say to members that there's still time to go and see the Christmas show at Cromer and the Christmas Spectacular at Cromer Pier and the Thursford Collection. I've been lucky enough to see both shows and can comment that both truly tremendous effort have gone into both. Wonderful that we've got those in the district. But I would just like to finish by saying I wish you all a restful break starting as soon as possible this week, where I hope you will forget about politics and enjoy your Christmas with your families. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. We now go to number 8, public questions and statements. I understand there are none. Now we go to the portfolio reports. You know what I'm going to say. I am making an assumption, and I hope it's true, that you have all read the portfolio reports, and that we have a 30-minute limit on this for the total. Cabinet members, I know there's at least one of you who wants to add something, but 2 of you. If you wish to make a comment, will you please do so now, and then I will open to members. Members, you only ask 1 question. There is a supplementary at the end if there is any time left over. Right, I think Lucy's the one. Are you going to? All right. Councillor Kershaw.
Thank you, Chair. It's just an addition to my report. And we heard this morning that the Levelling Up Fund announcement will now be delayed until the end of January. I think this sits in with what the leader has said about the reduction in effective funding there. So we will not hear about Levelling Up Fund till the end of January. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight the extraordinary work that customer services have been undertaking since September. And I note that in my report, I talk about the wait times, and I just wanted to speak a little bit about what we've done since September to improve those, if you'd indulge me, Madam Chair. Thank you. Since September, we've recruited 5 new members of staff. One of them will be finishing induction shortly, and all but 2 are taking calls now. This has had a huge impact. And when I met with my team last week, we had a 4-minute average wait time, which you will know is vastly improved. All our new staff members will be trained fully by the middle of January. We still have 1 more to recruit. And we have a secondment from our wonderful digital post room team who has stepped into the CSA role for a short time to help us through the winter period. In anticipation of the voter ID letters that will go out from electoral services, we've put a new option in our telephone system where our electoral services team will be jumping on proactively to help support call wait times. This is a proactive step that we're taking, and inter-department working within the council to ensure our communications are known by everybody, let's say. Earlier in September, we did have to turn our voicemail service off due to an overwhelming influx of calls, and we are staggering the voicemail service now over our peak hours. We are heat mapping, which is something that our customer services team are quite forceful on, and all customers are called back before the end of the day. So where there is an option to leave a voicemail, we encourage people to do so. We are procuring a chat self-serve, and we've been working with Bretland and Great Yarmouth to understand what they use, and on every page of our website we will have a chatbot which will hopefully support customers to be able to find the information that they need without having to come through our call centre. As part of this, our customer services team are working through the top 100 questions that our residents ask to help make sure that we refine that service as much as possible. We are getting ready to launch our customer satisfaction surveys, which will look across department, not just customer services, and we'll be able to listen back on calls reread emails and look at the chats so that we can see where we can improve service or where we've had good service improvement, that we can learn from that beyond there. The other thing that I wanted members to be aware of, that in the last 6 weeks, we've seen an increase in signposting to services, and this increase includes signposting residents to get a hot meal, to find a warm space, to do referrals to the food bank and energy bank. And I would really like to thank our customer services team, because they are front facing and they're dealing with residents who are entering crisis at the moment, and it is quite stressful. So I just wanted to put a big thank you out to our team there. And if I've got a few minutes, Madam, I would just like to
I think you're down to your last minute.
That's great. I just want to read out a case study so everyone can be aware of the work that our customer services team have done. And this is from one of our customer services agents, who wrote, I first had contact with this customer over a year ago and have assisted them with food bank vouchers and benefits. And at the time they were suffering from severe depression and would not leave the house. I referred them to the hub team, but then they came back to me through email contact several months later for a food bank voucher. They had messaged to say that their life was improving and that they had managed to leave the house and were focusing on a list of things to do each day. They also had a dependency on a medication which their doctor withdrew, but had managed to continue without the prescription. They then explained that they were trying to get a boiler fixed, but weren't asking for any help apart from a food voucher. They were then referred to the Help Hub team, resulting in a payment of £500 for energy help and a new boiler and urgent roof repairs. And this is the customer comment. I can't thank you enough. It's so nice to know that you have the jobs you do, so people who are in need receive genuine care and understanding. The 2 workmen have also been great. I'm over the moon, and this time tomorrow, I think I shall have a hot bath to celebrate, because it should all be working by then. Let's hope my body doesn't go into shock at being so warm. Bless you, and thanks again for contacting such wonderful people, because if you hadn't have got the ball rolling, none of this would have materialised. I'm forever in your debt, so I hope me telling you what a relief and privilege it is to receive this is a bit of payment back. So I just want to thank again our customer services team for going above and beyond for every resident that contacts them. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I think we can say that about most of our offices and the way that they carry out their jobs. Now, anybody else from the cabinet? No wishes to speak? I then throw this open to the public, or not the public, the members. Yes, Councillor Hyrie.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chairman. Given that the local government financial settlement figures are now out, and this is a question to Councillor Seawood, by the way, do you have any further information to share with the council tonight on that matter? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Heinrich, for the question. These are provisional figures. We are still looking at them, and there is a consultation period that will now take place. So there could be some changes. But the direction of travel for this council for the next financial year looks to be pretty clear. In terms of the funding which we will directly get from central government, so I'm excluding retained business rates and council tax, will be in cash terms considerably less than the current year. So that will add to the pressures on this council in terms of producing a balanced budget. That is probably contrary to what is the public message that's coming out, but for this council, we will be receiving less.
Thank you. Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Massini-Boy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I didn't expect to be so far up the pecking order.
Well, there you go, you see.
It's a question. I will be brief. It's a question to Councillor Lloyd, if I may. What percentage of the 57% reduction in the council's carbon footprint from 18, 19 to 21 and 22 is due to decarbonation of the national grid? And in your report, some areas of the council's emissions have actually increased. Could you please give us more details of the increases, please?
I'll have to get you a written answer for the percentage of recycled energy coming back into the council. It's not something I've got to hand at the moment. Are you happy with a written answer, councillor Mancini? Thank you. And the second part of your question, we had people coming back to work after COVID. Therefore, there's more traffic on the roads. People are using their vehicles more. We've had odd things like water usage in the council has gone up, and certainly this time of year the heating also. But it's a constant challenge. I think the council has done well to make like over 50% reduction already in its carbon footprint. I will say we need now some projects going forward, year on year, really leading up to 2030, which will make big inroads into particularly our scope 3 emissions. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you for that.
Thank you. Councillor Holiday.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question for Councillor Shahs. It was very good to hear your positive comments just now, but how could you have allowed a third of the members of the customer service team to be in post for less than 12 months at a time when it was anticipated the volume of calls would increase with the Serco transition? So when I checked in phase, there was an average call queue time of over 9 minutes, a service level percentage of 62.8, and a fairly moderate number of calls at 4,230. Thank you.
Sorry, can you just give me the first part of your question again, please?
Sorry. How did it happen that a third of the members of the customer service team were in post for less than 12 months at a time of the Serco transition when it was anticipated the volume of calls would increase? Thank you.
Sorry, just to clarify, you're asking why they hadn't been in post longer?
Now I'm asking why it wasn't thought ahead that at this time there will be an increase in calls, and therefore it'd be good to have customer service staff who are as competent as the one whose example you just cited.
Just so I'm just struggling a little bit. So if 11 months before the changes came, we had new members of staff, you're asking why staff members weren't there longer than that?
I'm asking if an overall view of a team is better to have experienced staff and you've got a bump in the road coming up. Why didn't you foresee that?
Okay, that's a glorious question. I can answer that on two parts. One, customer services shouldn't be taking the bulk of the calls from Serco. They have their own customer services team. However, we did field a lot of the calls. The other fantastic thing about customer services is that it's often a stepping stone into other departments of the council. And I don't feel that we should be preventing people from leaving if we're not in an area of high demand, or new people joining. So I don't think that it would have been fair to 12 months ago prevent people from leaving a job if they so wish to, or if they wish for career progression, because there may have been something following 12 months after.
Thank you, Victoria. Councillor Vardy.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yes, and thank you for your report, Councillor Kershaw. This question is for yourself. I understand the first year's UK Shared Prosperity Fund was either going to the Sustainable Communities Fund, or members were going to make suggestions for projects, given it needs to be spent in this financial year. I'm none the wiser from the update on page 54 as to how this will be spent. Could you just help illuminate this, please?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Vardy. The funding was only agreed on the 7th of December this year. The first 20% doesn't arrive here until April next year, so there'll be nothing spent this year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cushing.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My question is also for Councillor Kershaw. For months, in fact, almost for the last 3 years now, we've been waiting for this administration to draft an economic strategy plan. In last week's overview and scrutiny meeting, we were told that there would be none forthcoming for the duration of this administration. How is it that other districts have managed to make this a priority and draft a plan, but it isn't a priority for the Liberal Democrats to do so? And how can you put together a housing development local plan without a corresponding economic plan to show how businesses can be grown across the district?
Thank you, Councillor Cushing. What we have done as a result of the tanked economy is it's impossible to plan. Figures are crashing, prices are rising. What we are doing is actually designing a digital hub for businesses to help businesses survive and to grow. It is virtually impossible to cost and plan strategically when the government is in such disarray. So that's why we are where we are. We are helping businesses, and we will be opening the digital hub quite shortly. It's just not called a strategy.
Thank you, Councillor Stockton.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The question is for Councillor Kershaw. I wonder if he could give us a brief resume of the future proposals for Bacton gas site, please.
Thank you, Councillor Stockton. You may be aware this has been covered in the press recently. The North Sea Transit Authority held a large conference at Carrow Road last Wednesday, and the Chief Executive and I had already had a pre-meeting with them. And this is to actually secure the future, hopefully, of Bacton with an investment of £1.3 billion. This will be to help generate initially blue and then green hydrogen, and also to keep Bacton going for the next 30 years. And this is the South North Sea is the prime site for storage of carbon dioxide in the depleted field. So this is a very good news story for North Norfolk. There will be jobs, and that site will be extended by 30 years. It's in the public domain for you to read if you so wish. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Varley.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My question is for Councillor Brown. With your knowledge of planning measures and the subsequent work you do as chair of the Planning Policy and Built Heritage Working Party, how, in your opinion, will the proposed planning reforms within the Levelling Up legislation impact upon service delivery for our residents in North Norfolk?
Thank you, Councillor Varley, for your question. As we probably all know by now, the Levelling Up and Regeneration Bill introduces not only extensive planning reforms, long awaited and initially started in 2020 with the government white paper on planning reform. It also introduces levelling up standards as well as devolution measures. So the bill itself is a bit of a leviathan. It's gone through its report stage, and it's, I believe, about to go to the House of Lords. But what is clear, even though it's not quite sort of on the statute book, is there are three issues. The first thing is there are a lot of amendments on amendments in the bill, which speaks to the difficulty in planning for reform and consolidation of all the rules and regulations which have built up over the last 32 years. So that's point number one, that's going to be a difficulty for us to contend with moving forward. A lot of the new measures are created through secondary legislation. Now, that's a good trick on the part of the government, because it means that scrutiny is very limited. It's not the same as it is with primary legislation. So a good use of what they call Henry VIII clauses at Westminster is a good way to slip things through the back door. What the bill does is it ignores what communities have been asking for, and that's creative measures to deal with climate change and the cost of living crisis. I mean, the recent mood music from the government, sort of ever since the 2020 white paper proposals, has been focusing on the importance of strengthening community voices in the decision-making process. There seems to be some doubt by serious planning commentators that the new measures will actually achieve this. One I'd like to focus on is street votes. So mini, as it were, referenda on particular applications is a policy which is just simply bonkers. It's going to be extremely time consuming. It's going to be agitative for neighbours. It's going to open the door for neighbours to raise issues with one another, which are quite unrelated to planning, as well as adding expense to the planning process. So I think our residents have got something to that's going to challenge them on that. However, we do, and just finally, we do welcome the ability that the bill will give this authority to double its planning fees and set its own planning fees like building control does and has done for some time. That's a welcome amendment, but I'm not really that hopeful that it will make a significant impact on the improved delivery of service to our residents.
Thank you. If you wish to reply, you'll have to wait, Adam, till I've finished off the rest of the members who wish to speak. Councillor Penfold.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening all. Just a question to the leader of the council, please, if I may. So I'm just wondering about county deals, and if Councillor Adams, you've had a chance to consider this further, any correspondence with other council leaders in Norfolk, and what you feel the impact might be on this council, if any, positive or negative. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Penfold. Well, I don't think businesses and residents will be at all excited about the proposed deal. I think maybe, a small number of Norfolk's Conservatives might be, but I speak to a great deal of them and they think it's a dud, and sort of compare it to the contents of a Christmas cracker, really. It's some might be proud of their little cheap plastic toy, but I think for most it's probably not of great value, and I feel that's what we've got here. The excitement where it was will soon wear off. The value of a £20 million deal without index linking and diminishing daily in value is not one that I think will go far in Norfolk. None of it, of course, creates any new money itself, and as more and more deals are announced, I think it will become a vanity project. I'm astonished to hear prominent Conservatives talk about the additional money being used to pay off interest on borrowing. That's not the scale, that shouldn't be the scale of our ambitions. We know the scale of Norfolk County Council's deficits and debts, and I fear the issues will consume the additional benefits of the £20 million. We're failing to get rid of the Police and Crime Commissioner. I fear there will be little in the way of additional benefits to North Norfolk. So I don't think we should fight devolution. I think it's something that will happen, but we've got to push for some real benefits for our district, for education, for housing, and for transport. So I don't feel that has been delivered with this, but I will push for an improved deal.
Thank you. Councillor Pearce.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My question is to Virginia Gay. We've already had reference this evening to the loss of the 3 blue flag beaches at Munsley, East Runton and Sea Palling. And while we had the 6, as you were probably well aware, we had 10% of the nation's beaches. We've now only got 5%. Although it's been referenced, I just wonder if we can have some information on which of the water quality metrics are causing this relegation. Sampling requirements, waste discharges, microbiology or physical and chemical parameters. And what action does NNDC's administration at the moment propose to take? Thank you.
Thank you, Nigel. It's my understanding that the Environment Agency tests for E. coli and for fecal contamination. That's what I understand. it's obvious that we still have three, we have these three beaches are still rather good. It should be understood they've been moved from excellent to good. So that's what they measure for. That's what the situation is. I don't have any more information than that to give you right now, but however, the leader has already secured a meeting with Anglian Water for January, and we will also be securing a meeting with the Environment Agency, because although this situation is extremely regrettable and it is beyond North Norfolk District Council's powers, the quality of the water in the North Sea, but we do everything we can for our beaches, and we will be doing our best to find out what has happened and to lobby the people who need to be lobbied in order to remedy this situation as quickly as possible. That's the situation as I understand it. The leader may want to add something, but thank you for your question, because it is of importance to all of us, I think, in this chamber. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a supplementary from Councillor Varley. We have time.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. First of all, I just want to thank Councillor Brown for his very thorough, informative answer. Just following on from that, Councillor Brown, this is for you. Can I just ask specifically what are the implications for the progress of our local plan posed by the intended reforms? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Varley. Well, several authorities have actually paused their progress with their local plans in the light of the new bill. Not only on that score, but also we're waiting for the new National Planning Policy Framework, the NPPF, which we were promised in July, but I guess that the government just had a little bit too much on its plate during that particular period of this year. So we're expecting it early in the new year. And of course, we have our old friend, nutrient neutrality as well, which is, of course, significant hold up in the plan making process. So fundamentally, the changes to the scope and status of local planning measures contained in the bill, we intend to accelerate our plan and submit very likely in March of next year for examination to the inspector, or if not March, even possibly sooner. The new measures will make planning policy in local plans far more complicated than it currently is. We've got two additional documents that we need to bolt on to our local plans moving forward. It's called a spatial development strategy and supplemental plan, I believe. But the problem is that there is an ethos now to move to a more centralized plan making system and away from local consultation. So, for example, the strengthening of community voices, which is one of the aims and objects of the bill, doesn't quite translate into, for example, the public having access to the final examination of the local plan. There will be either a complete denial of rights of access, or it will be at the examiner's discretion. So from that point of view, we want to get our local plan adopted under the current rules which apply, rather than waiting for what is going to be set as under the bill. So we're determined to rise to the challenge. We're always ahead of the game. The government have caught up with us, actually, because we're now using more up-to-date census and polling statistics to formulate our plan. whereas the government previously insisted that we used the census back as long ago as 2014, which was causing some difficulties for lack of accuracy. This council will continue to produce a local plan to deliver a plan-led planning system rather than a developer-led system. And residents in North Norfolk should have the comfort that our actions will make it much harder for development to happen in places where it doesn't belong in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Brown, for a very comprehensive answer. Councillor Blathwaite, you wanted to speak.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I was going to originally ask this to Councillor Fitch-Tillett, but actually, as Councillor Adams alluded to it in his statement, do you think it's a complete coincidence, Councillor Adams, that our two MPs for North Norfolk voted against the Lord's amendment in October 21? So sewage, water companies can dump sewage into our bathing waters, and we lose 3 blue flags 1 year later.
Thank you, Councillor Blathwaite. I fear that it isn't a coincidence. However, I sincerely hope to be proven wrong about that. And just to reiterate the points that have already been raised, we will work as hard and as thoroughly as we can to address this situation. But it is the case that we've still got 3 destinations in Seaport, East Trenton and Munsley that are wonderful places to visit. There's no reason anyone shouldn't do so. But that said, we want that gold standard. Well, gold standard in this case is a blue flag. And we will advocate and encourage the authorities responsible for water quality in every way we can, starting in the new year. But part of this is, of course, learning, and that's the first thing we've got to do. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we're coming to the close of this session. Anybody else before I move on? Thank you. Right, item 10. I think it's for you, Tim, again. Appointments to committees, subcommittees, working parties, etc.
Only to say I can confirm what is listed here under item 10 is accurate, and those changes are what are proposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cushing, any changes? And Councillor Rest, any changes?
No, we have no changes.
Thank you very much. We're now going to item 11, and Officer Blatch would like to speak before we start on this one.
Good evening, Chairman, members. First of all, I'd like to introduce Tina Stankley, your new Director of Resources, and this is our first full council meeting for those of you that haven't met her to date. And flowing from that and the financial settlement provisionally that was announced yesterday and the statement made by Councillor Seward earlier in the meeting, it might be that you should consider deferring item 1A, fees and charges from the 1st of April as included in Appendix A for further revision by the Cabinet in light of the financial position that the authority needs to undertake in preparing a budget for 23-24 following receipt of that provisional allocation yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I go to Councillor Seward? Are you prepared to take this?
I know what the Chief Executive says, and I suggest deferral.
Right. Thank you very much. So we're deferring item 11A, the fees and charges. B.
Well, B gives delegated authority to the portfolio holder and the Director of Resources Section 151 officer in respect of those fees and charges which haven't been agreed. But I think it is important that the decision that was taken by Cabinet previously in good faith is revisited in light of the provisional financial settlement as part of the budget process in the next 6 to 8 weeks.
Thank you. I think that's a very wise move. We now go to number 2, agenda item 8, Treasury Management Half-Year Report. Councillor Seward.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is a standardised required report that has to come to the council. So therefore, it's been before the cabinet, it's been before review and scrutiny. I simply move that we recommend to full council that the Treasury Management half-yearly update is approved. And if members are particularly interested in the movements of interest rates, particularly short-term borrowing, that's now risen from 0.36% at the beginning of the financial year to 2.65%. And we now costs us more to engage in short-term borrowing for cash flow purposes than we actually get as an overall figure in terms of investment income. So we shan't be doing any more, basically. So on that basis, I move the recommendation.
Right, so the recommendation is to resolve to recommend the full council approves the Treasury Management half-yearly update. Can I ask the members, do you agree? Raise your hands if you approve of this. Sorry? No, don't think so. We're just doing a straight hands up. Please. Those for, against? No, and abstentions? 2 abstentions. Thank you very much. Okay, fine. Cara has said, can we please vote on this, on the deferred item that we've just put forward? So does it defer the item? To vote to defer the item. Item 1.
Oh, you want to vote to defer item 1 now?
Yes.
Oh, right, okay.
So just put your hands up, please, if you vote to defer item 1, which is to look again at the fees. I think it's a very sensible idea. Thank you. Those against or abstentions? 2 abstentions. Thank you. We now go to turning over to Bart. No. Item 3, agenda item 12, the North Walsham Marketplace Improvement Scheme.
Madam Chair, I'd like to raise a point of order on this, if I may, please. Reference page 28 of the Constitution. Item 15, motion without notice, subsection 15(1), item S, to require that a report be made to a future meeting where the person responsible has declined or failed to arrange for a report. I consider the report as presented has been highlighted as being completely insufficient in detail. Moreover, despite numerous but repeated but subsequently unfulfilled requests for further information and greater transparency, the situation does not permit members to reach a qualifiable or accurately informed decision with regard to the recommendations. I therefore propose this item is deferred to the next suitable full council meeting.
I now hand over to our legal officer here.
Would you be kind enough to say the page number?
Page 28.
Sorry, what section on page 28?
Page 28, subsection 15(1), item S.
Thank you. So this is a point of order. You're asking for a motion without notice.
Yes.
And so your motion is what exactly?
The motion is simply that the report is highlighted is insufficient in detail. And despite requests, it is unfulfilled requests for more information and greater transparency. It does not permit, as it stands in the papers, members to reach a qualifiable or accurately informed decision with regard to the recommendation as outlined. Therefore, propose the item is deferred to the next full council meeting.
And if that's your motion, do you have a seconder? So is there a vote on it? Does anyone want to speak on it? Is there a vote?
Councillor Kershaw.
Thank you. I would point out that if this this particular motion has gone through ONS and been debated, it has been up at the Cabinet Working Party projects with the head of ONS. There, no questions were raised. Information has been sent to all members over the last 2 days. If we defer this till the next full council meeting, costs will be incurred. We have to finish budgets by March. This could cost, if we have to stand down teams, this could cost £50,000 a week. So I think it's unwise and dangerous, and it has had full scrutiny. It has been in the transparent. We are still waiting some costs from the county council with regard to queries of charges, and we are at the moment waiting the final costings for Black Swan Loke from our estates team and the county council. As soon as they are there, we're happy to meet and discuss it, but I have not got them to hand. But this project is in scope. This is a very reasonable request from a fund which is for regeneration. This is not extending the scope of the project. This is to fulfill the marketplace, which is going to schedule at the moment. As we've discussed already, costs are rising at 40%. If we had not taken action to buy materials in advance, we would be looking for 40% of £1.2 million, which would cost £1.2 million. We're asking for 400,000 to finish this, which I believe is a very good project. We have had 4 businesses now come into the marketplace since we started the work there. Confidence is growing in North Walsham, and this would damage what is a very good project. Thank you.
Officer Matt, you have the Nigel Dixon's ONS report.
Yep, I have a comment from the Overview and Scrutiny Chairman who's not able to attend tonight. I'll read that as Scrutiny Officer. Madam Chairman, my apologies for not joining you tonight, but you wouldn't thank me for sharing an ailment over Christmas. These are my representations for item 11 and 12 on the full council meeting agenda. In past practice, they are usually conjoined with the preceding cabinet recommendations. In respect of the recommendations from the 14th December Overview and Scrutiny Committee meeting concerning fees and charges and the former Shannocks Hotel site at Sheringham, I have nothing to add. However, in respect of the North Walsham Marketplace Improvement Scheme, I have to say the following as chairman of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. In the nearing 4 years I have chaired the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, this is the least comfortable recommendation it's made to full council. The merit of the overall scheme or the need to deliver it wasn't challenged. Around an hour was spent on this item, firstly, to understand the reasons why information requested in October and during the December cabinet meeting hadn't been supplied in a timely or adequate manner. Secondly, this was crucial to Overview and Scrutiny Committee understanding how the contingency fund for the scheme had been spent, and more recently, what the £400,000 would be spent on and why no mention of such a significant request hadn't been made during earlier reports to Overview and Scrutiny Committee. There was insufficient information given during the meeting to answer crucial questions about how, where, when, and why the extra money was needed. Moreover, concerns were raised about project creep, rescoping and descoping of various parts of the scheme and how they variously impacted on costs and funding needs. Concern was also raised about project governance and management, especially of risk and cost escalation, and whether there would be further requests for funding in the future. The lack of transparency and justification was a major concern. In order not to delay matters and knowing it would be discussed at this meeting tonight, Overview and Scrutiny Committee pragmatically took a leap of faith and agreed the recommendations subject to the following 2 caveats: that the Overview and Scrutiny Committee will review the scheme progress in a scheduled report to the committee in January. The first being that full council will be supplied with a much more detailed explanation and breakdown of the spend of the £400,000 so that it can be satisfied on its justification. He's added that you will have to decide tonight on whether this has been done. And the second caveat or recommendation was that the Governance, Risk and Audit Committee reviews the project governance and management of the scheme, in particular regarding changes to its scope, risk rating and mitigation, whether it complied with the project management framework developed by the committee. It also needs to look at lessons learned and ensure appropriate remedial actions are taken. And that's the statement.
Thank you. Are you, Councillor Penfold, whilst I'm waiting for Cara to.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just to add to that, as obviously Vice Chair of Overview and Scrutiny, we did have a robust discussion and debate about this on the 14th, and there were concerns expressed. But I need to reiterate that we did vote to recommend this, so that fact remains. And I think today we've had some reassurance, and I'd like to thank Linda McGilligan for providing that to us, further detail around costings and how the scope hasn't increased. These are increases to the original costs that we're being asked to look at here. So I think we have had some reassurance today provided to us, and that's what ONS was seeking. Thank you.
Councillor Kershaw, I think then we must go to.
And the point that Councillor Dixon makes about this going to GRAC, of course it's going to go to GRAC. That's always been the situation. There is nothing to hide here. I'm more than happy for that to be. That's always been the intention, that it would go before GRAC.
Madam Chair, this is what we've just heard previously from the portfolio holder is factually incorrect. We asked in September, October, November and December for figures. The December information came through about 4 o'clock on the preceding day, and it was inadequate. It doesn't stack up. You can't make the figures as being presented come to any sensible conclusion on contingency, on budget or anything else. It simply doesn't provide the detailed information that was the last request as we closed the discussion on this at the GRAC meeting. We asked for a detailed breakdown of the figures and how they related to the final completion works on site. That information has not been provided.
Thank you. Councillor Gay.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just wanted to say that as far as I'm aware, as a local member, there hasn't been any project creep on this. And I think there's been an unprecedented level of scrutiny. It's been reported regularly to the Scrutiny Committee, and now, as many people have pointed out, it has been through the Scrutiny Committee. It is here tonight. That's another demonstration of this. There's also been a project board, which, as far as I understand it, has accorded with the governance rules set by changes to audit and practices. So it's fallen into line with what has been suggested by those. And I would think that the time for lessons learned is when the project is completed, but that's just the way I look at it. Anyway, thank you, Madam Chairman. I do support this project. I do hope people vote for it tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Toy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I attended the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and what became apparent to me in there, yes, I understand the need for the figures, but actually the way it's been funded and the way the funding has come in and the timescales with which it has to be spent, otherwise we lose the funding, made it clear to me that we had to make, as was put by Councillor Dixon, the leap of faith to do it. I don't think there's anything hidden. It's been through many committees, and there's lots of demonstrations of the decision processes, and there will be opportunity to analyse it afterwards. But if we do not do it, as has been pointed out by the portfolio holder, there will be costs incurred. We may well lose funding if it's delayed too long, and the whole project could be ruined, and therefore all the good work that's been achieved could be wasted. So whilst I understand the need for the numbers, and I would like to see numbers, I think the time for it in this case will be afterwards for the detail. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Charles.
Councillor Housing, you spoke about not getting information. Which committee is that?
Overview and Scrutiny.
Because time and time again we hear there are issues with overview and scrutiny, and it's whether or not scrutiny is being brought here or whether or not the correct information isn't happening. If overview and scrutiny have not been satisfied with the information they've received, yet have recommended this just doesn't make any sense.
The Overview and Scrutiny Committee is public. You can go back over the YouTube transcripts and you will see time and time again this was requested. I personally requested breakdown of the budget and the contingency, and we still do not have the information on the contingency figures.
Yeah, it was recommended to full council.
With the caveats.
Councillor Fine.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I think it needs to be recognised that the original HAS wish list was far more extensive than the scheme we are finally on the point of completing. In fact, we've cut out several nice to haves that we would rather were still in there. We have cut the coat according to the cloth available. And we have been pretty transparent in all of that. The scheme is probably among the most successful of these heritage action zones so far. Historically, I'm going to recognise that. We have not just a duty, but a moral obligation to complete the final stages. And if that involves a little bit of additional money, then that has to be. We can't leave two scruffy lokes as the last aspect of the scheme that we're not prepared to do. It's not fair on the businesses that are moving into the town on the basis of our improvements. This project has to be completed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Houston, have your final word?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. Christopher.
Yes, I'm going to come to you.
Okay, can I just say that in the papers that went to overview and scrutiny, I asked the portfolio holder, because there was a question in reducing the scheme. If the scheme were to be reduced, has a completed cost revision been completed which categorically confirms that the project will complete within the existing budget and on time? What would that final cost be? Are there savings? Point one, that was not answered. What would the additional costs, if any, be if the project is finished as a reduced scheme, but with further bidding round to raise the additional finance? And what timescale is envisaged for funding raising and then site mobilisation of works? That was not answered. And what are the specific benefits which were in the report as a specific benefits, but not detailed? What are the specific benefits to capitalise on greater outcomes, as stated in the OS report, if the further £400,000 is committed to the project? That was not replied upon either. So none of the other possibilities for the scheme to make sure that we don't have to call on 400,000 were outlined, detailed or confirmed so that we could consider them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Cushing.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. What I've got out of the Cabinet and the overview and scrutiny meetings, which I sat in on, was that the administration's oversight of this project seems to be a complete shambles. What I actually asked at the Cabinet meeting, in fact, Councillor Dixon and I asked it, was when they said we want £400,000 additional funding, questions we asked were why did this suddenly materialise out of thin air? Because 2 months ago, we got a report saying everything was running on track and fine with the project. We asked for a detailed breakdown of how that 400,000 was calculated. What is it made up for to actually justify it in terms of doing that? What had happened to the contingency? And the fact is, what really surprised me was there was no challenge from any of the Cabinet about the figures. It just waved through. Now, I remind councillors here that 4 out of the 8 Liberal Democrat members of the Cabinet represent North Walsham, either at district or county council level. Now, I can understand a natural bias they would have for North Walsham. And to be fair, I'd have a similar one towards Fakenham. But you've got to be seen to be absolutely open and fair and be challenging for any figures that come through. We have to remember that this is taxpayers' money. £400,000 is the equivalent of at least 2 years council tax rises, and we're going to wave it through without any scrutiny at all. And what we said in terms of the overview and scrutiny committee is we reluctantly agreed, provided that we were going to actually get that detailed breakdown that we requested all the way back at Cabinet, which I believe was actually requested then, certainly was requested at overview and scrutiny. And it's been like getting blood out of a stone to understand what's happening on this project. I mean, things that came out of last week's overview and scrutiny meeting, for example, is that we found out that actually the project was being managed by the county council. Well, that was news to us all, didn't appear in any report before that. We've subsequently found out from in an EDP article that about the bulk of the £227,000 for the marketplace is going to go and pay architects down in London. That's the equivalent of 1 year's council tax money going through there. There's far more. The whole point is we are talking about public's money. We need to be absolutely crystal clear about what we're doing, give absolutely sufficient scrutiny to everything that goes through here. In fact, Councillor Brown, I think he mentioned in a previous answer about government saying scrutiny was very limited of looking whatever bill he was talking about at the time. Yeah, this is important, and I believe I totally endorse the points that Councillor Housen has made. This should be deferred to another meeting and gives the Overview and Scrutiny Committee and all members a sufficient time to actually look through these figures and make sure they're comfortable with them. Thank you.
Thank you. And last word will go to Councillor Kershaw.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The figures, as you know, for the marketplace were specific, and that is to finish the scope of project. This is not an extension. This is just to finish the scope of the project. Figures and inflation have raised massively thanks to mismanagement of the economy, and that's something we have to deal with. We have to finish that section. To take it further, I'm happy to have a meeting when we have replies from the county on the issues we have raised. The county aren't running this. They're working as a contractor, but we have some issues we have to resolve. I'm happy to convene a meeting as soon as we have those figures to discuss them, but we cannot afford to hold this up because it will cost more than we're asking for. And this is a project that we will be proud of. The North Norfolk District Council will be proud of this in the coming years. It's an improvement and an investment in much needed in our biggest town. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you for all your comments. Yes, certainly you can have a recorded vote. And we now go to the vote on the motion as it's proposed on page.
Oh, no, I think we're going to Councillor Housden's motion to require that an additional report be made to a future meeting where person responsible has declined or failed to arrange for a report. That's his motion.
So we're going to vote on Councillor Housden's amendment. Would you read that out again, Carl? Because I haven't got it down here.
Councillor Housden, I believe your motion.
That I propose that this item is deferred to the next suitable full council meeting for debate.
Is that what we're voting on, Karen?
That's the motion. So
right,
we go.
So motion as stated by Councillor Housden. All those who wish. Oh, sorry. Yes, that's it. So we can have a recorded vote to accept the deferral of this motion. We got there in the end, Nigel.
And part of that, I understand, was you required a report to be made to that future meeting because that's the requirement of the motion without notice. So I'll go to the recorded vote. For, against or abstain in regard to Councillor Housden's motion. Councillor Adams.
Against.
Councillor Birch.
Against.
Councillor Blathwaite.
Against.
Councillor Brown.
Against.
Councillor Cushing.
For.
Councillor Fitch-Tillett.
Abstain.
Councillor Fisher.
Against.
Councillor T Fitzpatrick. Councillor V Fitzpatrick. Councillor Fredericks.
Against.
Councillor Gay. Yes. Councillor Grove Jones.
Against.
Councillor Heinink.
Against.
Councillor Heinrich.
Against.
Councillor Holiday. Councillor Housden. Councillor Kershaw.
Against.
Councillor Lloyd. Councillor Mancini Boyle.
For.
Councillor Pearce.
For.
Councillor Penfold.
Against.
Councillor Rest. Councillor Seaward. Councillor Shires.
Against.
Councillor Spagnola.
Against.
Councillor Stenton. Councillor Stockton. Councillor Taylor. Councillor Toy,
Against.
Councillor Vardy, Councillor Varley,
Against.
Councillor Yasmin. So 4 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The recorded vote, there were 4 against, sorry, 11 for, 19 against and 1 abstention. So the motion falls and we need to vote on the recommendation now.
Right. Thank you, everybody. We now go to the recommendation as stated. Resolved to recommend to full council that 400,000 be allocated from the business rates retention reserve for the completion of the NWHSHA said, what a word, placemaking scheme. Do you wish for a recorded vote? Yes, I guessed you would do. Another recorded vote. So this is for the recommendation to £400 be allocated. For, against and abstention, please. Cara.
Councillor Adams. Councillor Birch.
4.
Councillor Blathwaite.
4.
Councillor Brown. 4. Councillor Cushing.
Against.
Councillor Fitch-Tillett. Abstain. Councillor Fisher.
4.
Councillor T Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Councillor V Fitzpatrick. Councillor Fredericks. 4. Councillor Gay. 4. Councillor Grove Jones. 4. Councillor Heinink.
4.
Councillor Heinrich.
4.
Councillor Holiday. Councillor Housden.
Yes.
Councillor Kershaw.
4.
Councillor Lloyd. Councillor Mancini Boyle.
Against.
Councillor Pearce.
Against.
Councillor Penfold.
4.
Councillor Rest. Councillor Seward. Councillor Shires.
4.
Councillor Spagnola.
4.
Councillor Stenton. Councillor Stockton. Councillor Taylor. Councillor Toy.
4.
Councillor Vardy. Councillor Varley. Thank you.
Go
19 for, 11 against and an abstention. Is it 3 abstentions? Can I check how many abstentions you've got? Just 1. 19, 11 and 1. So it's carried.
This motion is carried. I would hope that because it's been quite contentious, that some of the information that's been requested can be supplied during our next O&S and cabinet and before we come to the next full committee. Because I think it is important. 400,000 is a tremendous amount of money. And I'm not saying anybody's being underhand or devious. I'm sure they're not. It's just that we've asked for specifics. And as far as we can, we'll try and give them to you.
Absolutely.
Is that okay? Yes, Eric.
Yes, can I just say, I'm glad you said that what you've just said about being even-handed, because the leader of the opposition, Councillor Cushing, did sort of start to indicate that because we're North Walsham members, we've not been objective in looking at this matter. And I regard that as quite unacceptable. And we do have to treat that, we're meant to be required under the Nolan principles of treating members with respect. And I hope that he remembers that. Because, you know, if he does want to dive into this, I can go through a whole list of minutes of project meetings where North Walsham members have been highly objective and asked very robust and searching questions from the outset of this project.
Thank you. I think some of that was the fact that we all like our own areas. I think that's all I'm going to say about this. Yeah, that's it. Right, on we go. Thank you, Councillor Bardell. Now we go on to item 4. Agenda item 18, the former Shannox Hotel site, Sheringham. And we have Councillor Brown is talking to this. I'm sorry, we're still going through item 12. Never mind, I think we're you know, pre-Christmas whatevers. So now we're going to the Shannox, please, Councillor Brown.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. You members have the report in front of them on page 1. Sorry, not 129.
What?
137. Thank you very much. This is a long-standing matter, which in effect is expected under the compulsory purchase procedure, which is quite detailed and has many steps with which we need to comply. I just want to highlight that although the landowner demolished the hotel in 2021 or thereabouts, it was incumbent on the landowner to progress with developing the site. And there's been very little evidence of that. We are actually getting close to the end of the process if we don't take steps to vest the property in the ownership of the authority and to proceed with the remainder of the compulsory purchase order process. So I heartily recommend the report and its recommendations to the council this evening. I just want to sound a note of caution, and that is if we are going to discuss any figures like we have on the last item, we will need to go into private session because it's a very commercially sensitive area to be discussing here tonight.
Thank you. Anybody, any questions to ask Councillor Brown about the Shannox? Yes.
Can I just speak on this? I just wanted to say thank you really to everyone involved in trying to move this along. Sheringham has been crying out for a resolution to this for many years. And I'm really pleased that hopefully it will now be moving towards some kind of resolution that benefits the people of Sheringham.
Thank you, Councillor Heine. Anybody else wish to speak on this one? I mean, this went through overview and scrutiny, I believe, and it's also been to cabinet. So as it's stated, so the recommendation is to confirm the support for the serving of the general vesting document, to take ownership of the site, and to approve the additional capital budget for the full valuation cost as set out at section 6 of the confidential appended report. And an additional £10,000 to cover costs associated with the purchase of the property to be financed from the capital projects reserve and delivery plan reserve. Are we happy to just do a hands vote on this one, everybody? Yes, Councillor Seaward. I thought you were leaping in there. No, so therefore it's to confirm this, resolve to confirm that this is approved. Can I please have your hands up for approval? That's unanimous. Thank you very much, because this has been blighting Sheringham for quite some time. We need to get it moved on. Thank you. Now go to item 12, recommendations from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Are you Vice Chair? Saul, we've done this, have we?
I am. I mean, I can add a bit if you want, Matt.
Just to note, the other recommendations were supported, so you've had everything from the
Right,
screen.
okay, thank you.
Probably should say, Madam Chair, that there was one we weren't able to discuss though, Matt, which was the car park income data monitoring, because the figures, the section 151 officer advised us that the figures that we'd been presented with weren't robust. And so therefore we couldn't progress any further with that report. And so we are expecting that to come back to us with robust figures in January. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we happy with this item 12? Do we need to have a hands vote on it? No, that's just right. Item 13. We're getting there. Appointment of independent persons. Well, there we go. We all do it sometime in full council. Councillor Bathwaite.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is regarding the independent persons. Councillor Cushing, Councillor Rest, myself and monitoring officer spent a day interviewing for 2 posts of independent person. Before going any further, I would like to thank Alex Oram, who has been doing all this work on his own for during his tenure, and we owe him a debt of thanks. We interviewed, I'd like to thank the officers actually for providing us with very high quality candidates to interview. The successful applicants are Charles Monteith, Hannah Brown, and I would ask the full council to ratify these appointments. Thank you.
Thank you. Could we have a hands raised then to ratify the appointments of these 2 independent persons? I don't think I was just doing the hands up, not doing seconds, etc. That's fine. That's unanimous. That's fine. And it's very important we have these as well, so that they're not tied into anybody. They get a very small amount of money as well, just for tipping up. So, they've got to be dedicated. We now go on to the review of polling stations, and I pass over to Officer Blatch.
Thank you, Chairman. So this is a periodic interim polling review. The election team have looked at the accessibility and suitability of polling stations based on the recent experience in 2021, and a number of small changes are proposed. Most involve changes to an alternative venue. There is only one proposition before you this evening that proposes withdrawal of a polling station, and that is in the parish of Thornage, where the polling station is the vestry of All Saints Church, which is not considered suitable in terms of level of amenity for the polling staff to sit in a what is a very cold and drafty space, but there's also issues of lighting and accessibility, lack of parking at that venue. So given the numbers on the roll and a lack of any alternative public building in that parish, it is proposed that voters in future from Thornage would vote at the nearby Brinningham polling station, which is a village hall. It does have safe off-road parking, and voters could easily be accommodated there. They are in the same district ward. Other proposals are to change the venues, polling station venues at Overstrand, Houghton and Holcombe. The request in respect of Thursford is withdrawn, in that although the parish church was considered a more suitable venue in terms of level of comfort and amenity, there has been no request from any parishioners in Thursford for a change of venue. And although the village is in 2 parts and the church essentially sits in the middle, it is felt that the Methodist chapel is not overall unsuitable, and that's on the basis of further contact and feedback from the parish council. So I would propose to remove reference 2.3, but ask for your support to move forward with the consultations on those other polling station changes, including the removal of a polling station from the parish of Thornage for the reasons given in the report. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Officer Latch? Yes, councillor. Oh dear, Fisher.
That'll do. Okay.
Yes. Sorry, darling, my head, my brain's going with something gone with stuff.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just to confirm that Holcombe are very happy to be moving to the ancient house, which is actually closer to the previous polling station than the one they're actually using. Do we actually confer with the parish councils about that? But I spoke to the parish clerk and he hadn't actually been spoken to.
I thought there had been conversations with the parish council, but the paper before you is to commence the formal consultation process. So if that conversation hasn't taken place, it will do following your decision. But as I say, certainly in respect of Thursford, that feedback has been received.
Right, councillor Fitzgerald.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. I see one of my polling stations in Overstrand is up, and I'm very pleased to hear that it is a consultation and not a fait accompli. Otherwise, I think I might have a riot on my hands.
Oh dear, certainly don't want a riot. Councillor Housden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can I just ask about Wickham Green? Shortly after I was elected, shortly in terms of hours rather than days, I had the management company on my back saying they didn't know that there was a porta cabin going to be put on their precious grass, and I just wondered what we were doing this year. Next year. Thank you.
I might have to provide you with a written answer because I don't have that information to hand. I'm sorry, Councillor Housden. The situation in 2019 was the fact there was no electricity in the Wickham Green community centre building. But I think that they did revert to using that place in 2021, I believe. So I'm not aware that a temporary porta cabin is proposed in future, but I would need to check that.
Okay, they are using the generator a lot more in the Wickham Green Centre now, so that may well be useful.
I see Councillor Fitzpatrick's hand behind you. I don't know.
Yeah, I think last year it was actually a tent on the grass rather than a porta cabin, wasn't it? Because we had all the COVID precautions, but it was actually a tent, and it was a nice day, so we were fine.
It was a nice tent, was it? Thank you for that. I don't know. I'm sorry. I can't answer that. Sorry. I'll come back to you after speaking to the elections team because I don't have that information to hand this evening.
Yeah, it's kind of Wickham Green glamping.
Yes, I'm noting with concern the proposals for Thornage All Saints, which is fairly squarely within my ward. So not only will residents in Thornage have to contend with the rather restrictive new measures in the elections bill, which the government have introduced for producing ID when voting in person at polling stations, I would expect a significant number of my residents in Thornage not to be able to meet that requirement. Not only that, they have to go down the road 1.5 miles to a polling station in another area. The point's made that whilst the parking may be off-road and may be safe, emerging from Brinningham Village Hall certainly is not. It's on a blind bend in both directions, a 50-mile-an-hour zone in terms of its speed limit, and it's quite hazardous. So the increase in numbers, which is probably going to treble the potential numbers, given that Thornage is significantly larger than Brinningham, I expect there to be some pushbacks. I listened to what the chief executive said about liaising with parish councils. I can confirm that the chair of Thornage Parish Council, as of yesterday, only knew about this because I had taken the trouble to send the relevant extract from this report to him so that he could circulate it around the parish council. I see from the timetable, we're bringing it back in early February next year. Will that be to the budget full council on the 18th? Because I've got a concern about that. That's normally reserved for the budget statement only.
I think the intention was if we have an additional meeting of council for consideration of the local plan, it would go to that meeting, but obviously that hasn't been confirmed yet. But yes, we will try and avoid the budget meeting if possible. If it can't go to the budget meeting, we'll have to go to a later meeting, so.
Right, so it'll be brought back, sorry, when, just for clarity, Emma?
So if we have an additional meeting of full council, which we've discussed
Yeah.
potentially
What a
in early
reserve.
February,
Yeah.
this report would go to that meeting rather than the budget meeting. But that hasn't been confirmed yet, so we will need to give consideration as how the best way to manage the business.
So just for public expectation, because we are going to be asked some questions on this, if it doesn't meet an additional reserve meeting of full council early February, will it go to the 18th of February full council, or will it go to a later meeting?
I would have to discuss it with the elections manager. I suspect we would be getting a bit too close to the election date to take it to the end of
That's
March.
my
Yeah, so yeah,
concern.
but I would have to have discussions with the chief executive and the elections manager around that. We are getting squeezed now with the consultation period and the approaching election. So the intention is, if we can, to take it prior to the budget meeting.
I think if you look at this recommendation, it is only saying that we agree to the commencement of an interim polling place review. So nothing is in stone. It's for Officer Blatch and the elections team to look at this. So I'm not surprised that the parishes and polling districts are a little confused about what's going on, but hopefully within these next few weeks, Councillor Blatch and his team, Officer Blatch and his team will be able, I'm always doing that, aren't I? I keep giving you the councillor.
Thank you, Chair, for offering the position to the Chief Executive. That's greatly appreciated. I'm sure he would be an asset to the members' team.
Absolutely. So anyway, can I please go to the recommendation?
Can I just make a point of clarification? The next full council meeting to discuss the budget is on February the 22nd and not the 18th. I think it is important that we know that, if nothing else, from
Okay,
this
yeah,
evening's
fine.
meeting.
Fine.
My apologies. And I think my 2023 diary is not.
Right. Recommendation then, I need you to vote that full council agrees the commencement of an interim polling place review, including consultation with the parishes and polling districts who are proposed for a change to their current arrangements in line with the proposed timetable. And I must say, reading through this, these poor things who are working in some of these conditions, they really need to be updated. So all those in favour of this recommendation, please raise your hand. That's unanimous. Thank you very much for that. We now go to item 15 and over to Officer Denny. This is the draft programme for meetings 2023-24.
Thank you, Chairman. This is an annual report that comes through to you every December to approve your programme of meetings for next year. It's just set out how we prepare it. And as you can see, we try and avoid the school holidays. I have highlighted where we haven't been able to. And we always try and also avoid meeting clashes with the internal drainage boards and the county council. But again, there are just 2 meetings where we have not been able to avoid that. So they're just for your attention. It has been shared with officers and members. We start the consultation in September, so hopefully we'll had an opportunity to see and comment. So I just present it.
Thank you. Any comments on this draft programme in the future? So can we please have a vote that we recommend that the members adopt the programme of meetings for 2023-24? Raise your hands if you accept. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Now, questions received from members, item 16. I don't think there are any. No opposition business. And we have the notice of a motion. This, can I just remind you again, is limited to 30 minutes. And the motion was proposed by Councillor Cushing And it was seconded by councillor Dixon. Have we got another seconder now? Councillor Vardy, thank you very much. Councillor Cushing, if you'd like to present this.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The motion is designed to be something entirely non-partisan, something that I hope all of us could rally round and support. I'm sure all of us have watched on TV and seen horrific pictures of seals with plastic rings around their necks, cause deep wounds which become infected, must cause them extreme amounts of suffering. And there's certainly been a number of instances on Norfolk beaches of seals being caught in these flying rings. I believe a couple are being monitored at the moment by horsey seals. We are blessed in our district with a number of seal populations, particularly focused around Wells and Blakeney, and also around Horsey as well. As stated in the motion, the council has already signed up to the Safer Seals campaign, which is supported by the Friends of Horsey, which highlights to beach visitors what can be done to safeguard the seals. Last month, the borough of Kings Lynn and West Norfolk banned flying rings from their beaches. If North Norfolk follows suit, then we said that the majority of the county's coast will have increased levels of protection. Now, I stated I'm aware that actually the legislation may be lagging behind what we actually want to do here. I think where we're coming from is trying to put the seals first, and the view is that if we put notices up around the coastline areas and try and educate the public and visitors to the coast of the dangers of these flying rings, I think that will probably go 90% of the way towards actually reducing their usage and hopefully safeguarding seals. And I think if we push one thing, it saves one seal from actually having a ring getting around its neck, then anything we do here this evening is certainly worthwhile. It may all take the legal enforcement process to catch up, and I'd welcome any attempts to anything that can be done on behalf of this council to progress that matter, and indeed work with our members of parliament if needs be in order to do that. But as I want to say, I just want a brief motion just and to commend this to members. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Vardy, do you wish to speak now, or do you wish to reserve till after the end of the?
Okay, I reserve my comments. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Now, I do believe that there's an amendment being put forward by Councillor Adams. Have you all seen this amendment? Yes, yes, yes. Right. You'd like to speak to it, please, Councillor?
Thank you. So I'm not sure if absolutely every councillor has seen the amendment, but it has been sent to group leaders ahead of the meeting. So first of all, I want to say, I think both myself and Christopher want to be in the same place, and achieve a ban here. However, we've got to recognise we don't have legal framework in place to be able to do that. So we've been doing some work on this for some time. In fact, it's fair to say I've been lobbying Nigel since before I was leader on this subject. It's something that would seem the next logical step, and clearly it's a big issue, and it does affect beyond the seals. It affects the perception of our beaches and our wildlife areas. So it's something that I would be keen for us to of course do. That said, having looked into public space protection orders, antisocial behaviour legislation, and most recently bylaws, it's simply something that we don't have the ability to do. Those frameworks are really there to protect people and not animals. So that said, we obviously want to get there. I therefore propose the following: that the council notes the good work already undertaken by our leisure and locality team in conjunction with the Friends of Horsey Seals to raise awareness of these issues and discourage the use of items on our beaches, and ask for the awareness campaign to continue if possible and if desired by our partners at Friends of Horsey Seals and at our SPCA East Winch until such time a ban is possible. So just pause there. we've done a lot of work with the Friends of Horsey Seals, particularly raising awareness of the issue. I've been given this on the condition I don't throw it around the chamber, of course, but this is one of the frisbees we were handing out, actually swapping with visitors and residents. And you can obviously see the clear difference. Seals are curious creatures. They unfortunately get the head in the item and they can't get it off. It affects seals of all ages, not just pups. And sadly, they are garroted to death unless they are caught. This is actually, it's not hemp, I believe it's bamboo. So it's just to cover the plastic issue as well. So fantastic work that was done there. And of course, it's becoming something that people are aware of. Secondly, I want to propose that myself, the leader, meets and discusses the issues with North Norfolk's MPs in conjunction with the Friends of Horsey Seals and the RSPCA, if they wish to join, to press for the need for additional powers for local government to ban the ring frisbees on our beaches. So it's recognised what King's Lynn have done is within good intent. However, it's without a legal framework. So it remains an advisory ban. Ideally, all the authorities around the coast would be in a position to do this and maybe together ban these items from being used on our beaches for all of the reasons that I think have been outlined by both myself and Christopher. Thirdly, we continue the engagement with the Friends of Horsey Seals and RSPCA East Winch, where East Winch is where I should say the majority of the seals go to be treated. To understand the scale of the issues we are facing, the number of seals that are being impacted. Fourthly, to continue to monitor the usage of rings using our foreshore officers and with their ability to engage with beach visitors on this issue as and when time allows them to do. So our foreshore officers have been monitoring and engaging when and where they've got time. Clearly, it can't be their primary issue, but they're busy with that and other things. Next, I want us to discuss with the RNLI, the providers of our beach lifeguard provision, their ability to monitor the usage of the rings during their work on our beaches, alongside their other monitoring activities, which includes the observation of numbers visiting our beaches. Some of you may know they do a head count. Next, that we engage with retailers about the issues with ring frisbees. I should say I previously had a meeting with Palgrave Toys, who are one of the larger importers, but of course there are numerous retailers, small retailers that sell these items, not with any intent of anything going wrong or this of course happening, but there's a case for saying that we do that. And we should post further general communication messages on our social media platforms from spring onwards. We already have a good section on the website, and I think those social media messages are reaching further and further. And lastly, that we consider the benefits of advisory signage on our beaches and promenades, asking that the rings are not used. So that at the moment wouldn't be an enforceable restriction. However, it's of course, the right thing to do if we can find the right positions for such signs and it's affordable, safe, etc. So that's my amendment. I hope it's accepted by the opposition, who I think have done this with the right intent, and I make the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Do I have a seconder for Tim's motion, which is the amendment? That's Lloyd. Now we go to see Christopher agrees to. Oh, right, Christopher. Do you agree to this amendment, Christopher?
Yes, as I stated in my original motion, the idea, the intent of this is to put the seals first, and that's what's important here. So on that basis, I'm happy to support that, accept the amendment.
I think that it was pointed out when we were discussing this prior to the meeting that the legislation that exists protects people. It does not protect animal life on our coast. So we've got to have a look at this again. So who wants to speak first? I think it was Nigel. Nigel Lloyd, you wish to speak on this?
Yeah, I don't want to reiterate everything that's been said by Tim and Chris. Just to say that I welcome the support from our opposition here, and I hope this is something that everybody can support. I think the motion that is being proposed by Tim adds a lot of strength to the motion and a lot more actions. This is something we looked at several years ago. I looked at it personally. We had no powers then. We've since we saw this motion, we investigated it and consulted with legal as well. And there are no legal, PSPO is not possible, bylaws, etc. And the foreshore is actually a sort of special environment as well, where a lot of the laws that exist on the land don't exist on the beach. So I welcome this. I hope everybody can support it, and thank you for bringing it forward, because it just helps to highlight the issue with the public. I hope the press and media pick up on this today, because we've done a lot of work here to promote the awareness of this terrible problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brathwaite.
Yeah, just to reiterate that this does require all our support. All the retailers selling such things in my ward certainly do not sell these items. I went to a national store in Norwich, pet store, and asked them to take them off their shelves, which they refused, but they agreed to show the literature provided by Horsey Seals. I went back half an hour later and it had disappeared. Just to remind people that if somebody is playing with one of these, say at Paul's Ferry in Norwich, the foul thing will eventually find its way into the sea and there cause harm to our seals and other wildlife. And I absolutely support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rest.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wondered why it took a notice of motion from an opposition group to bring this forward when the authority are now saying, yes, it's a wonderful idea. Why didn't they do it earlier?
Thank you. Councillor Fitch-Tillett.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm delighted that this has come forward. Ever since I saw the first seal with a ring round its neck, I went straight down to the retail outlet in my patch and explained to them that they really shouldn't be selling them. And I'm very glad I was supported there. I wonder if we could actually put some little stickers up in retailers that were or could be expected to be selling them, saying, you know, a nice picture of a seal, we're supporting seals and not selling rings. But the other thing is as well, this ties in very nicely for our motion for the ocean, because it's stopping plastics getting down onto the beach and into the sea. So, but the other thing is, if we do see them floating around, we could have a word with the fishermen, because we've got quite a lot of them are now bringing stuff in and putting it in the bins. So if they get some rubber rings, perhaps they could do that too. I'll have a word with them.
Thank you. Councillor Penfold.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for bringing the motion and the amendment, which is a good one. So I hope we can all support it. Just to say, I wonder if it's worth Tim thinking about working in partnership with other coastal authorities. You may do that already, who have the issues relevant to them, so that we collectively can lobby government. That might be more effective if we do that collectively across Norfolk and the East, perhaps. And I would push for the advisory signage to be put up as quickly as possible and to be as hard hitting as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Housden.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm afraid I will abstain on this one because I get involved with a lot of wildlife groups and wildlife charities. And there's a lot of single species conservation, whereas it is wider species conservation that we need. I fully understand and support this, but if you look at the website, there's actually a seal with fishing nets around its neck, which is problem enough, but our fishermen are under enough pressure as it is. The real issue here is the wider biodiversity and the fact that we should be doing far, far more. We can start at the tip of the iceberg, but actually we should be looking at the bottom of the iceberg. I know how places like West Winch use the media to manipulate fundraising, and unfortunately it's not a picture that's very good. And I know the inner workings of many conservation organisations, and it is far too much single species, and we wouldn't be talking about the problems with wider biodiversity now that we are, if wider measures were taken many, many decades ago, when people were actually screaming from the rooftops. I fully support what's being proposed. I will abstain because it's simply just the tip of an iceberg, and I think it's the wider biodiversity that's so very, very important, and that Councillor Fitch-Tillett has alluded to that in part of this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Holiday.
Thank you, ma'am. Much like Councillor Penfold, I think we should be stronger with the signage. And there are various places I know of where dogs aren't allowed because of wild birds. So there are prohibitions that protect animals in place, and they're really quite effective. And I don't see why we're not being much stronger on this. And if Kings Lynn has the chutzpah to go ahead and say you're not allowed to do it, why don't we? Thank you. It doesn't matter. It's just to say, if you tell people not to do something, some people will agree.
You're quite right. Councillor Vardy, do you wish to come in here? And then I'll pass to you, Councillor Cushing, to finish.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, I think you could say this every journey begins with a single step, and I think this is what we're doing here today. I welcome this. Just remind you all that this is not our beaches. That's the seals' beaches and other creatures, if you like. It's their beach. We're encroaching in their area, so we must respect them, and we must respect that position at all. I think that this is an excellent Conservative motion supported by the Liberal Democrats, which I applaud, and I applaud that combined together we now have a plan that might benefit the seals. I would also like to see that there's some kind of monitoring at some point to say that the retailers have been given the appropriate notice. So thank you. I support this motion. Thank you.
Christopher.
No, so I'll just conclude by saying, obviously, I think some people, around the whole chamber, people have made some excellent remarks this evening in support of this. I pick up on Councillor Holiday's point. I do think that signage would be really helpful, because I'm sure that, as I said in my opening speech, if you put up there, I'm sure 90% of the people will probably comply with it, regardless of whatever the law says. Anyway, but I think we can probably, at the end, it's a season of goodwill to all men, persons, and our seals. So I think we'll come together at the end of our long council year and come together in unity and hopefully support this. So thank you.
Thank you. And I'm pleased to say that this is a non-political motion, so we can invite the independents as well. They are included. We're here to look after our wildlife. We tend to forget this, that the coast is not our provision. It belongs to the sea. And I agree with Nigel that there's more than just these rings. There's fishing line. There's all sorts of things that catch around creatures. Look at the damage that's done to whales, etc., dolphins. Oh dear, never mind. I'll get so emotional in a minute. Anyway, so now we will go to a vote. So we're going to vote on the amendment as put forward by Councillor Adams. Oh dear. Which is the pardon? Yes, which is, I'm getting lots of advice here, you know. So the amendment is now the substantive motion. Okay, so we're now going to vote on Councillor Cushing's original with the amendments as put forward by Councillor Adams. So please, Are we all right with just a hands up vote with this one? Great. All those in favour? Thank you very much. That's unanimous.
I don't think it is.
Oh, who's abstaining? Oh, Nigel, you spoilt it. Councillor Howson is abstaining. We recognise that. So thank you all very much. That we now go to number 19, exclusion of press and public. We have no need to do that. No private business. And I don't think we need to go to 21. We've dealt with number 21. Thank you so much. There's a small libation, and I think we've got the notorious mince pies again in the committee room, and I look forward to seeing you there. Merry Christmas.